In this video, we will be learning how to graph a relation given a table of values. Here we have a table of values for time and distance. Remember that the first column is the manipulated variable, which is x, and the second column is the responding variable, which is y. Step 1. Create ordered pairs. Let's add another column to our table to help us organize. This will be for ordered pairs. Ordered pairs are always in the format bracket, x value, comma, y value, and bracket. So for each row of the table, we would write the time value for x and the distance value for y. If you have your table values set up correctly, this is easy because it's always the first column and then the second column. For the first row, we have bracket, 0, comma, 0, and bracket. For the second row, 1, 10, and so on for the rest. When creating a graph, we use a grid called the Cartesian plane. The horizontal axis is the x-axis. This should look familiar, it is the number line you are used to. Note that the positive numbers extend to the right, and the negative values extend to the left. The vertical axis is the y-axis. The positive numbers extend up, and the negative numbers extend down. Where these two lines intersect is at 0. This is called the origin, and it is located in the middle. If the values you are graphing are all positive, then you can just use the top right portion of the Cartesian plane. So here we have our grid. Step 2. Draw and label your axes. The x-axis is always the horizontal axis and will be labeled with the manipulated variable, in this case, time. Remember, always use a ruler. The y-axis is the vertical axis and will be labeled with the responding variable, in this case, distance. Again, remember your ruler. When labeling our axes, make sure you include your units. Step 3. Create your scale. When deciding on your scale, you want to ensure that you're using your space and that all of your data is not clumped into one corner. In this case, we see that time goes from 0 to 4. We want a bit of extra space, so let's say 5. If we count the squares along our x-axis, we see that we have 20. So if we take 5 and divide it by 20, we get 0.25. This means that each square would be 0.25, or every 4 squares would be 1. So that the scale is easy to read, we'll stick to whole numbers. You can label every 4th square a consecutive whole number. Remember that we will be using the ends of the squares, or the ticks, not the middle of the squares. Now we do the same thing for the y-axis. Our data goes from 0 to 40, so let's add a little bit on and go to 50. Again, we have 20 squares, so divide 50 by 20, which is 2.5, so every 4 squares will be 10. Note, your x and y axes do not need to be the same. They don't have to have the same scale. However, your scale of each must increase by the same amount. Step 4. Plot your ordered pairs. Remember that your ordered pairs are in the format x and y. So taking our first ordered pair, 0, 0, we find 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis, and find the point where they meet. We then put a data dot. This one is easy because it's our origin. Let's try the next one. 1, 10. Find 1 on the x-axis, 10 on the y-axis, and find where they meet. Put a dot to plot your point. Now do the same thing for the rest of the ordered pairs. Step 5. Connect the points using a straight line. Note, your line only needs to go through the origin if you have a data point there. And once again, be sure to use a ruler. Step 6. Give your graph an appropriate title. In this case, we will call this graph distance versus time. You want the title to be as descriptive as possible. In this case, we have no more information, so this is an adequate title. Here is our completed graph. Looks good. Your turn. Use graph paper to graph the following information. Pause this video, create your graph, and then resume the video once you are done. All done? Go through this list to make sure you have followed all the graphing rules. Everything good? Then your graph should look something like this.